Hi everyone. Following the Prime Minister's announcement at weekend that England is now looking at a second national lockdown, I thought it worth taking a few minutes just to have a look at what does that mean for us as property investors. So far, there's no indication that the housing market is going to close. In fact, in the press conference on Saturday, the Prime Minister specifically mentioned construction and manufacturing as continuing to operate as normal, obviously with COVID secure guidelines in place. As of today, it looks like the residential housing market can also remain open, although obviously we still need to follow the government guidelines to make sure that we're COVID secure. This is particularly important if you're carrying out viewings, for example. So some of the guidance talks about wearing masks and gloves, opening doors and windows and wiping surfaces down once people have viewed the property. It's also important to communicate with any tenants in the property to make sure they've not tested positive, they're not experienced symptoms and they're not self-isolating. It's also a good idea to check with the prospective applicant that they don't have any of the symptoms or tested positive either, to make sure that everybody is safe on the viewing. In terms of the rest of the market, there might be some minor impact, for example, on EPC surveyors, mortgage surveyors and such like, particularly if they've returned to an office setting and now being told to work from home again. Hopefully though, they'll be better prepared this time around and there should be less delays than there were for the first lockdown. Communication with your tenants is also vitally important at this stage. We're going to be communicating with all of our tenants before lockdown on Thursday, particularly with those who have joined us in HMOs and even more particularly for those who have arrived from overseas during the summer to come here for work. They weren't here for the first lockdown, so probably unaware of the restrictions and rules around lockdown and what that means for them. So we'll be letting them know what that means for them personally, advising them to contact their employer if they're affected. The good news is that the furlough scheme has been extended for the period of lockdown. It was due to end at the end of October, but as we're going into national lockdown, this has been extended. So this is good news if you've got tenants working in the hospitality industry, for example, who have now been sent home. They should still be able to pay their rent in full, and the furlough scheme is already up and running, so there shouldn't be any delay in them getting any of their payments. Obviously, you want to check in with your tenants and make sure that they are not adversely impacted financially and come and give them some support. We've been providing details of a charity called Step Change and also the government organisation, the Money Advice Service, for tenants to help them budget more effectively during this time. Many of our tenants have made use of this and are now much clearer understanding of their financial situation and how to budget so that they can pay their rent and other bills. It's also important again to remind tenants of the symptoms of COVID-19 and what to do if they're experiencing symptoms, how to get a test, how to report this to the NHS and to get further medical advice. So again, I'll be sharing all of this information with my tenants this week. It might also be worth just checking in with your contractors and suppliers as well. So people working in other people's homes can still continue to work, but obviously within the already known COVID secure guidelines. A key point to note, and this hasn't been mentioned, but I'm inferring from what's going on, is that in Tier 2 and Tier 3 areas of the country, bailiffs have already been asked not to carry out eviction notices if the area is subject to Tier 2 or Tier 3 restrictions, which is a significant part of the country, and many areas have been in restrictions for quite some period of time. Now that we're going into a national lockdown, I would suggest that evictions throughout the whole of England are going to be suspended. Housing courts remain open, although don't forget the new civil proceedings are now in place, which came into force at the end of September when housing courts reopened. However, even if courts are opened and you do get a successful judgment in your favour, it's unlikely you're going to get your property back anytime soon. There had already been an announcement that bailiffs had been asked not to evict people for the period between the 11th of December and the 11th of January. Given that we're going into lockdown until the 4th of December, if you are looking to regain possession of your property, it's now highly unlikely you're going to get your property back until early next year. So I hope this quick video has been helpful. In summary, for the housing market, there's very little change, but if things do change, I'll keep you posted.